coming to this event today, part of Bengali History Week. My name is Mohammed Ahmedullah. Those of you can hear my introduction earlier. Really honored and pleased to have, pronounce your name?
Xiaoyu.
Oh, Xiaoyu, sorry.
Yeah. You can call me Bristi.
Oh, Bristi, right. Now, Bristi sent me an email and I was confused. This is your Bristi. So I didn't understand. We and Xiaoyu, right? Xiaoyu. Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I understood later. We're really pleased to have Bristi here to talk about Tagore and 100 years centenary of receiving the Nobel Prize. Tagore is really important, especially in Bangladesh. More important than probably, relatively speaking, in India. Some people love Tagore in Bangladesh and some people don't want to like him, and some people hate him, right? For whatever reason. I think it was in 2001, I was reading Bangladeshi newspapers, and it was really distinct for me. It was a 150 years anniversary, 2001. 2001, or some kind of, anyway, some kind of 140 years anniversary. So certain, cultural groups and certain politicians were praising Tagore and saying how important, he is. But then there was other people, important people, very absent. There were no reports of them celebrating or saying anything positive about Tagore. And some of this is, divided on political grounds, right? But Tagore is very important, whether we like him or not like him. We have to understand him and really and understand him as a phenomenon in our country and around the world. So we're really pleased to have Bristi. So Bristi will speak and then you can ask a question.
Yes. It is a great honor of mine to come here to share my ideas about Tagore with you. And I think people who are sitting here must be so curious about why a Chinese is sitting here to talk about Rabindranath Tagore, who is a Bengali literary figure, a Bengali, Indian, Bangladeshi. I am a Chinese, and Rabindranath Tagore is also very widely read and widely admired in China. Maybe people don't know about it, don't know too much about this kind of phenomenon. But I think it's better for me to share my personal story with Bengali language and Rabindranath Tagore before I start my talk today. Because it must be a question for everybody to understand why I'm doing that. So, thanks to Mohammed to inviting me, and also the Brooklyn Circle to give me the opportunity. So, I started to do my Bengali language and literature major in university in 2006. And when I started the language, I found out it's really difficult for me to write and pronounce because it is quite different from Chinese and English. These two languages I have done for several years. So why I chose the major is because I started to read his poetry when I was 10 years old from my father. He gave me a book because he is really a poetry lover. And when I first got the book when I was 10 years old, it is just actually, I was very confused about the writing of Tagore because for me, I can't really understand the sentence or single word, although it's a very proper Chinese translation. But I was still very attracted by the beautiful imagery, the beautiful seasoned writing in the poetry, especially. I was thinking that what kind of a world Rabindranath Tagore is living, because I didn't see too many trees and flowers in my real life in Beijing. It's quite different seasons and climate. So actually I don't really know it. So I just want to explore more since I was very young. And I started to do the language, and then I started to know Tagore is a very international figure and he's a universalism. So I got a little dream in 2007. I want to follow his international footsteps to see the world. So I went to Dhaka University, the Atomic Pasha Institute, the Modern Language Institute of Dhaka University, to do my Bengali. And then I started to feel the golden Bengal he has written, the phrase, the air, the wind, and every flowers and the trees, and even the baying trees I have read in his poetries. So I started to be more familiar with this figure, and later on I got to know more about his international experience, especially with his connection with Western world and his connection to London. So I started to want to come to London and see the city he used to study and stay for a while, especially it is the city he published his Gitanjali. So I came here and started my South Asian area studies at School of Oriental and African Studies. So that is my experience with him, and later on I took my teaching position in Communication University of China in Beijing, and I got 20 students who are doing Bengali now. So it's amazing. It's even more than in London. In London there will be 12 or 11. That's what I know. But we got 12 who will do Bengali language and literature, mainly in Tagore, and later on will be journalism reports, something else. So I'm continuing my career, actually following the Tagore degree. So today I'm sitting here and traveling thousands of miles to London to talk about him. It's just like to make my dream come true to some extent, to make people know more about him. So shall we start the talk today? My talk will be in 3 parts. The first part will be why should Tagore be reread? Why should we read Tagore in modern society? Because some academics and even Bengalis said Tagore has been totally out of fashion, but I don't think so. Yeah, somebody said it. I was so shocked actually, because they have been actually influenced by the Western culture. And some youngsters, they didn't have too much interest in their traditional culture. It is a kind of phenomenon. It also happens in China. So that is the first point I want to argue. The second will be the introduction to the historical background of Tagore's Nobel Prize. And the third part will be how he survives in modern society. It is also the main topic of my talk today. It is mainly about his relevance to today. The last part, I would not regard it as a kind of argument, but I want to regard it as a kind of a storytelling about his one of his international trips. It is his trip to Beijing to China in 1924. I will give more detail about this trip and his ideas of universalism as a sample. So let's start with the first point: is why should Tagore be reread? Okay. The first point is to reread Tagore in an international, transnational, multi-dimensional way in modern world. As we know, Tagore is a literary figure for Bengalis, but he should not be only located in a Bengali context, because for me, it is a more international figure. He makes sense in a broader context because his writing, especially his Nobel Prize winning collection, Gitanjali, has been translated to so many languages in the world and got a very wide audience, international audience in the world. So the first will be put Tagore in a very international stage to understand him, because Goldie has argued in 1827 that you can't just read something in a national literary context. I'm sorry. National literature actually does not make much sense in modern world. So Tagore has been a member of the world literature for such a long time, because Nobel Prize doesn't mean only a national prize in a very limited context. So it is an international figure, and what I mean about the multi-dimensional way to understand him is to understand him from a very comprehensive access, because he is not only writing poetry, especially his poetry is with music. His musicality has been neglected for such a long time, and especially Gitanjali, people know that is a context, that is something Tagore has written, but not too many people are familiar with the music of Gitanjali. Gitanjali could be sung, Gitanjali could be with dance, just like the Bengali culture, people could sing, could dance, but not many Westerners and even Bengalis can know about this point. It is ignored. I was very happy to see the sort of a show of Gitanjali at Rachmix. I think it happened in July in London, and Shamila Tagore, who is Tagore's, granddaughter, yeah, his younger generation, yes. And she came to raise the poetry, and Bengali young generation, like the girls who are sitting here, they were dancing and also singing a song. And one of them also recreates the Rabindra Sangeet, the Rabindra music, to make it in a modern way. So it is made more accessible to modern audience, not in the only traditional way, because Bengali people may understand this point, may understand Bengali music, but it is maybe very difficult for foreigners, like for me, like for Westerners, to understand his music and also the deep culture inside of the lyrics. So it is a very good point, and that is the multi-dimensional way. I give a very simple example to reach this point. And I still want to mention at this point is a way to understand Tagore is you must do some homework when you're reading it. Actually, it's not me who said this. It's a Dr. I speak it in Bengalese, Kedoki Kushari Dyson, who is based in Oxford. She told me that it is poetry with a lot of the imageries I have mentioned. Well, something don't exist in Great Britain, in the United States. People have never seen it. I don't know the golden Bengal before. I don't know the birds, the baying tree, the banana tree, what are very, very familiar in Bengali people's life. So you have to do some homework to understand this culture. Maybe you don't need to understand every Bengali vocabulary, but you need to have an open mind to understand this culture, to accept it, to read it, to learn it. So that is the most important. That is the most important part to start. And the second point I want to argue is to reread Tagore will help to reconstruct the literary system. Here I locate my argument in Britain, in Bengali diaspora here, because before that, when Tagore first traveled to Britain, it was in 1910s. It was he traveled from British India, so it was quite different from today. He must be traveled very differently from today also. So, and also the more important is that the Irish poet William Butler Yeats and also the English artist William Rothenstein will be the main character who helped to promote Tagore's international fame, especially Yeats wrote the introduction to English Gitanjali. So many of the international audience will think it is only with the recognition from British scholars, British writers, could Tagore get the Nobel Prize. Is that true? Actually, it's a question. I can't deny the influence Yeats has done to Tagore's writings, but it needs to be done more research about this point, as it is still under debate whether Yeats is an important figure or not. So we have to. So what I mean here is to put Tagore in a new literary sphere, because before that, like Edward Said argued, the Eastern, just like heroes as Orientals, was treated as uncivilized, treated as backwards, and something cannot manage themselves. So today, it is not true. It's just like the moral political environment has been totally different from before. The Orientals, the Easterns, it's not the ruled anymore, and the Westerners are not the ruler anymore. So how we relate this Tagore in a new environment is quite important. Actually, we need to put English literature and Bengali literature, English culture and Bengali culture in a very equal level to understand it. Because the world now for me is, it's flat. There will be no more levels, just like, oh, I'm the leader, I'm the people who are led. So it is a very important point for people to think. So the third point is to know about modern Bengalis in the world and the hybridity of culture. Actually, this point is also located in the Bengali diasporas, actually, because here, as far as I am concerned, the reading method of a group of people will be a starting point for outsiders like me to get known about this community, how they react to themselves, how they define themselves in this country. Are they define them differently from 1910s or 1920s? So that is a question. The modern Bengalis, it is a question whether Tagore still means a lot to them, especially the second or third generation in this country. Does he still make sense? That is a question. And I think it is very necessary to consider both the reading public's recognition to this literary figure and also their normal education, daily normal education elements to understand this figure. It is a normal figure to them, or just like somebody who is there but people don't really read him. It's just like, for instance, like Shakespeare. People know Shakespeare a lot, but how many British people can read Shakespeare in every detail, every single chapter? Actually, it is a question. So, that is the 3 points I found out to. I found the necessity to reread Tagore in modern literary sphere. And move to the second part will be historical background of Tagore's Nobel Prize. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. There will be no first one to go in England. I will not talk about this. We will start from the English Gitanjali and the Bengali Gitanjali directly. Actually, Rabindranath Tagore's Gitanjali has 2 versions. One is English version, and another is Bengali version. The Bengali version came out the first, and the English version came out in 1912. The English version is not merely the direct translation from Bengali one, because in Bengali it will be more, more tidy in the context, but in English it will be more explanation of the meaning. And the first and most widely circulated copy is quite, I would say, classical English. It's not modern English, like a lot of the C inside, and it's quite different from today's using. Anyway, there is a new translation from William Radici, who has done great work, and he's also my professor. So the Bengali version contains, the English version contains only 53 of Bengali version's 103 poems, so it's only half in context. And William Radici argues that the English Gitanjali is derived from 3 types of poems. There are song-like poems of the Gitanjali phase, just like I mentioned, the Gitanjali poetry collection, the Bengali one could be sung by people. The second will be like more sonnets-like poetries. And someone else will be more lighter, like one of the poems named Mukaya. In English it means fairy. It will be like a ballad style. So the Gitanjali is not a simple poetry collection. Rather, it is a poetry collection which must be read combined with other diversified artistic form. It is that Tagore won the Nobel Prize because his contribution to English literature as an English writer. But Gitanjali should be read from both Bengali perspective and also English perspective. It is that some academics said Tagore won the Nobel Prize was not only in the name of Gitanjali, but also another collection named Gardener. There is
another one too.
Yeah, another one too. But people are arguing like this.
No, it was true.
Oh, it is true.
Somebody on the Nobel Prize committee had some Bengali, and he withdrew them from the library and read the books in the original Bengali, and on the basis of Gitanjali alone, Tagore would not have received the Nobel Prize. That is apparently an absolute fact.
Yes, and also another one named the Glimpse of Bengal Life, Lyrics of Love and Life. These 3 were referred by the Nobel Prize committee members. And but Gitanjali is the most widely read one, and the Gardener, the Glimpse of Bengal, Lyrics of Love and Life were not that popular like Gitanjali. Oh, sorry, I forgot where I am. Oh, yes. So the main point here is English Gitanjali will be more popular than the Bengali one because it has more international audiences, but the Bengali version should not be neglected. Moreover, the knowledge of Bengali language is necessary to read the literature and the culture. But Tagore, whether he is writing in English or Bengali, there is only one Tagore. And his legacy is in many other languages. So he starts to make sense and be more close to the modern society and survive in modern society from different languages, not only English or Bengali. So we should consider his Nobel Prize winning from an international perspective, not only limited to English and Bengali. The second will be his connection to English artist William Rosenstein and Irish poet William Butler Yeats. As I have mentioned before, these two major figures really influenced his winning of the Nobel Prize in 1913. It is still very argumentative how much Yeats has influenced Tagore. I would like to share some details about these two figures' connection to Tagore. The first is that...
Are you talking about Yeats influencing Tagore, or are you talking about the fact that he promoted Tagore?
Promotes, more accurately. Yes. Yes. The first is English artist William Rosenstein, who qualified as a genuine Indianist and sought to understand India in the eyes of the West and show the concern for India's political travails. And Rosenstein was the very first British intellectual Tagore had known. And he had written to Tagore and wants to know more about him before, and also Tagore wrote to him to ask him to read his English Gitanjali manuscript and to make some correction. So Rosenstein used to write that Tagore begged him to read his manuscript. Actually, but Tagore held different opinions towards that. It's just like he sent Rosenstein to read his manuscript. Actually, this historical fact is still under debate. There is no very settled argument about who begged whom or who sent whom. So, but Rosenstein really helped to promote Tagore's first connection with Western intellectuals. Rosenstein assembled gatherings of British intellectuals with Tagore and circulated manuscripts to British intellectuals to read. So it is obvious that Rosenstein helped Tagore to open the first international door in London. So then the Irish poet William Butler Yeats was one of them, who is considered to contribute the most to the preparation of the book and later on the international fame and popularity of Tagore and Gitanjali. He got a very famous introduction, like he wrote and he commented on Tagore's writing. It stirs my blood as nothing has for years, and he defined Tagore like an Indian civilization itself has been content to discover the soul and surrender himself its spontaneity. Actually, it should be argued about Yeats' reception towards Tagore's Gitanjali because, in my point of view, Yeats had a really naive understanding of Tagore's writing because he didn't know much about the 19th century Bengali hybridity of culture, because it's in 19th century in Kolkata, in Bengal, it is very, the culture is quite widely mixed from British, from India, from other international cities, because it is it was the heart of British India. So Yeats didn't think much about this point, and he just regarded the Gitanjali as a sort of some offerings to God, and it didn't make much sense and didn't do much homework to understand the Bengali literature at that time. So that's why I think Yeats had a really naive understanding on Tagore's writing. But he did portray Tagore as an Indian icon because he said he wants to make an Eastern figure. He wants to make it, so he wrote the introduction. So it is very clear that does Yeats really love Tagore's writing? I think he did love it, but he had something else inside his mind, because Rosenstein and Yeats did share something in common is their recognition and promotion of Tagore is a sort of wise imperialism, and the Indian and British culture dialogue could be part of the liberal imperialism agenda. That is something deeper in their mind. They do love the literature there. Gitanjali did provide a new understanding, a new perspective to English literature during that time. But something deeper inside should not be neglected by readers and audience. So, also Tagore was quite popular only for 5 to 10 years in Western world, mainly in Britain actually. So, why did his fame shrink? Why did his fame shrink in such a short time? Because he got famous, he got the Nobel Prize, and at first, Rosenstein and Yeats just wanted to make a poet in sort of a romantic literature way, but Tagore came back to educate the public about colonialism, about how to make India independent. Actually, it's still India. Bangladesh hasn't got independent at that time. So this kind of a bit political Tagore came back to England. Why is the mainstream society accepted him? That is the question. So that is to say, a political Tagore was not welcome in mainstream British society. His fame started to shrink. And so his nationalism, actually he is not a nationalism figure. He has been understood by many of the Bengalis as a national poet. He is a national poet, but he has never had any nationalism idea. People misunderstood him. People said, oh, he wrote the national anthem of India and Bangladesh, Mono Jono Gono, and Amar Shonar Bangla. This is kind of the inspiration for Bengali people, Indian people, to pursue independence and the country's interest. So he should be a kind of nationalism figure, or should be a nationalist. Actually, he's not. Look at his writing in Amar Shonar Bangla, My Golden Bengal. I found out it is more writing about the natural images of Golden Bengal, like the sky, the scenery of the Falgun months. Falgun is one of the Bengali calendar months. And also, he did write about like the phrase, make me feel loving my Golden Bengal more, this sort of thing. But he didn't demonstrate very directly or very clearly about how we should fight for independence, we should fight for freedom or something like that. He expressed his patriotic feeling through his love to the nature of his motherland, but not from a very activism way, not from a nationalism way. And also the Jono Gono Mono, India's national anthem. this poetry expressed the close tie among different races. Tagore was trying to promote a unified India, not a divided one, because during that time Bengal was divided by the British government, especially led by the British officer named Curzon. So he wanted to make a unified Bengal, but he didn't want to make it. Didn't want to do it in a very activism way. Didn't want to make it in a very violent way. He went to the street. He went to the street as a Hindu to talk to the Muslim, to give them a sort of red lines to their hand, and just from a very through a very humanity, through a way of humanity to make a kind of unification, but not from a violent fighting or something. So he is very different from Gandhi's SOAS movement, because SOAS movement has, how to say, has brought a lot of violent actions in India. So Tagore has never wanted this kind of thing happen in India, in Bengal. So he is not a nationalism figure, and people always misunderstood him and always think, want to politicize him. It is really wrong. That is really not what Tagore really wants. So so that's why I wanted to explain a little bit. Tagore is not a nationalism figure. He is not a nationalist. He did love his motherland, but from a very natural, very spiritual way, not from a political, violent way. I think that is also the point for modern people to think about it. Violent actions and fightings don't make any sense. It's just make hurtings and how to say, make the world such a mess. That is also a sort of inspiration I got from the Tagore's writings. So let's move to the third point, is Tagore in modern world. How could Tagore survive in modern world? Actually, it is a very hard. It is a very hard point to argue about, because Tagore is a very comprehensive figure, but he was only popular as a poet, especially in Western society. People only know his Gitanjali, his writings in poetries, but didn't know much about his other characters, such as educationist, philosopher, artist, writer, environmentalist. So, educationist, he founded his university named Bishopharati. In Bengali, it means doesn't make any sense. People usually translate it into International University of India, but I prefer to pronounce it in Bengali, Bishopharati. Then it locates in West Bengal, India, at Shantiniketan. So this university is quite special. It's quite different from others because Tagore founded it. Wanted all the fine minds in the world to come to this place to communicate, especially for youngsters. It is kind of a reflection of his universalism ideas and also internationalism ideas. I've read that the Italians, the British and Chinese also went to this place to learn Bengali culture, to make communication. So he did the job as an educationist to educate the public, to give them his ideas about his humanity, universalism and internationalism, to make people know about this kind of harmonious coexistence of different cultures and different languages. And his philosophy is also very important. It's quite a big part, but I'm not quite familiar with his philosophy that much. So that is kind of a blind point of mine. But he did a very great job as an artist. he painted. He did a lot of paintings, and also he wrote music. That is a very big part of his writings, especially his music is quite important. I can still remember the songs I've learned at school. My teacher told me the first one is Amra Shabai Raja. It means we are all kings. And then we learned several others like Boro Ashagore, then Eshohe Boishak. It is for the Bengali New Year. So at the beginning I can't understand the lyrics of the Bengali song, but I was living under the Rabindra Sangit atmosphere. So that is a very important part, especially for a foreigner who are doing Bengali language learning. It makes me have more, can sense Tagore's writing from a different perspective. Then the writer, I could say, he did not only write poetry. He did something else like play, like tonight, which will be on stage, the Dhaka, the post office is my favorite one, is a very nice and very attractive. And environmentalist, I would not argue him as an environmentalist because he had never come up with any solutions to environmental issues, because the environmental issues mainly exist in modern society. During Tagore's time, these kind of issues are not that obvious. But I prefer to regard him as a sort of nature lover, because he did write a lot of the natural images in his writings, and also he advocated students to build more connection with nature in Bishopaludi, in his university. He advocates students to putting their knowledge into practice through their connection with nature, like they are having classes under the banyan trees. They're having their talk. They're doing their the farm work every day to make them feel more close with nature. So environmentalists, that is one of the Tagore's characters needed to be argued more. The second point is Tagore is revived through renewed achievements done by scholars and artists. The first point I want to mention is the modern translation and also academic research that are done by different scholars. The most impressive one for me is the translation done by William Radici recently. Actually, it's in 2010. The book was published in 2012. And also Michael Collins from UCL, he did a very great job about Tagore nationalism and the post-colonial theory. And another doctor named, I mentioned, Kedaki Kushari Dyson, she translated Tagore's poetry, got another poetry collection named I Will Never Let You Go. It is not only poetry, but also a lot of the very detailed explanation of Tagore's writing and the background information. Then music and play. That is I know a Bengali director named Mukul Ahmed, and he is doing great work because recently he has a play will be on stage named Bengali name is Shasti. Literally means the punishment. He recreates the play not in the traditional Bengali way, but adds a lot of modern elements inside, and made it more accessible to modern audience to understand it. Like he slowed down the tunes, recreated the tunes to be more modern, and also, but he didn't change the story. He didn't change the story, but make the characters in a modern period, but not in a very historical, very far away time. And also, the achievement in education. That is the point I want to mention here is Tagore's writing has been put into the national curriculum in Britain by the Tagore Centre UK, by the chairperson named Young Kundu. He did a great work, and he helped to put Tagore's writing, but not Gitanjali, into national curriculum, so the youngsters could get access to the Tagore's writing through their daily education. That is quite important. And also,
it's actually practice now.
Yes, it is. And
in primary school, secondary school?
I think it's in primary school. And also Tagore's and also Bengali Language O-level exam led by Cambridge University. It is more, how to say, more international students and youngsters to get access to this language and culture. I saw the examination papers. It is quite professional, and also, how to say, a lot of the information inside. It is a good job. The third point here is Tagore could be a figure of spiritual unity for all Bengalis. Actually, it is a question of mine because I have done some research and met several Bengali friends here, especially in diaspora context. Does Tagore mean the same thing towards Indian Bengalis and Bangladeshi Bengalis? Does Tagore really help to unify these two areas people as, how to say, as a kind of unity to understand each other more, because the geography is different from before, but what are their minds? I find out Indian Bengalis and the Bangladeshi Bengalis do approach Tagore from different ways. I would not say that I interviewed several people, but I can't tell their names. The Bangladeshi Bengalis said, sorry, I would say the Indian Bengalis first. The Indian Bengalis said, we are more in a leading position in Britain to promote Tagore's influence in modern society. And Bangladeshi Bengalis prefer to politicize Tagore more than us. And then the Bangladeshi Bengali said, there is nothing wrong to politicize Tagore, as he is a national poet for us. We got our independence, we got our identity from his writing during 1971's Liberation War. So that is kind of a very argumentative point I found out. I didn't feel anything wrong from different approach to Tagore, because people are approaching him, people are reading him, people are loving him. That is the thing. That is the most important thing. But as an outsider, I think more important is these two different groups. People should know each other better, not just in a very competitive feeling with each other. I'm approaching him in a very professional way. I'm doing it in a political way. Actually, like one of the interviewees said, the Indian Bengalis are approaching Tagore in a comparatively traditional way, and Bangladeshi Bengalis will do it in a more, let's say, modern way, and recreate his works and recreate his plays and music. So I think that both traditional and new way are right. There is nothing wrong with that. But will Tagore be a sort of a spiritual unity for all Bengalis? Well, really a question for me, and I also really want to listen to some reaction from the people who are sitting here to give me the answer about it. Then there is three main points I've mentioned in this talk: his Nobel Prize and its relevance to today, mainly in the Bengali diaspora in Britain. So I want to mention another sort of a storytelling about his international trip to China and his friendship with China. So Tagore is the second famous Indian name in China. And the first one is the Buddha's name, because the Buddhism is one of the most important religions in China. And why did Tagore accept the invitation from China, and why did he travel? Based on his writing, he wrote to Romain Rolland in 1924, just during the eve he traveled to China. He wrote, "In the meanwhile, I go to China. In what capacity, I do not know. Is it as a poet or as a bearer of good advice and some common sense?" And Tagore also told Elmhurst that he was not really interested in the details of Chinese politics or ancient history. He wrote, "But you and I, Elmhurst, will try and meet their students, their literary men, their actors, painters, poets, musicians, and playwrights. We must try to find out what the men and the women who will build the new China in the feeling and thinking." So he is coming not for any political purpose, but for sort of cultural communication after 700 years silence between India and China, only as a point of the Buddhism. He brought something new and let the Chinese public to know about this Indian literary figure. That's why he is still very popular today. I would like to give some details about Tagore's encounter with Chinese intellectuals. The first one is, and also the most impressive one is his story with the most famous Chinese poet named Xu Zhimo. It's just in the pictures in white. The man, the gentleman, and the lady was Tagore's translator during his Chinese trip. This lady is also very well educated. She is also a poet, and I wrote here the story of Ruby Dada and Shushima. Ruby Dada is Tagore's name. Zhimo called him, and Shushima is Zhimo's Bengali name Tagore gave him. So this kind of friendship started before Tagore really traveled to China. Actually, Tagore's travel to China is not an accident. In Tagore's family, his father, Debendranath, and his grandfather's name is Torkanath. Yes, they both visited China during their lives. So it is not an accident. Actually, they had started their close relationship with China a very long time ago. And Tagore didn't know Chinese, but he was deeply interested in China throughout his life, and he admired Chinese civilization. It is argued by Amartya Sen, the professor at Harvard University. And besides Zhimo, there is another thing I want to mention here is he also had very close connection with the communist leader named Chen Duxiu, because Tagore's first Chinese translation is done by the communist leader. It is that Tagore, because I was asked why should the communist government support Tagore in China, because in India Tagore was anti by the communist government in West Bengal, but in China he is very popular. It is really a question to understand. But from the very beginning, the communist leaders started to be interested in him and even translated 4 poems of his Gitanjali and published it. And I don't know why. That is the Chinese communist, what is different from the Indian communist, I think. And then there is as the first translator, He did his translation from English, of course, because the communist leader didn't know any Bengali language. So during Tagore's stay in Beijing, he mixed widely in the capital city, and just like today, his play was performed by the most famous Chinese performer named Mei Lanfang, who is a Peking opera performer, and he is the greatest performer in China since the 20th century. So Mei did not only perform Tagore's play, but also introduced Tagore about the Peking opera, how did it work. The more important thing, more interesting thing is Tagore even met the Chinese last emperor named Puyi in Forbidden City. Tagore was invited by the emperor's English tutor named Sir Johnston, and met in Forbidden City only for his poetry, his writing about Gitanjali. Actually, the English version and the Chinese translation were prepared for the emperor to read. There is no very detailed record about their conversation, but it is a quite interesting point to explore more. Maybe we will find more about this in the near future. And also, Johnston did some, notes about this kind of about this Times meeting. These notes are saved in the SOAS library. I think I have no right to borrow it out because it is quite special and precious, and maybe there will be more negotiation in the future. One point I want to mention here is Tagore gave public speech in Beijing during his visit, and there were 3,000 students there who listened to his speech, but not everybody admired him, praised him. Of course, just like in his native Bengal, there were some people who did some action to anti his public speech in China, because there are some activism students who want to cut their connection totally with the long time tradition and civilization. They want to be somebody modern, somebody totally westernized. So these kind of people come and to send some leaflets to anti-Tagore's public speech. That is a very small part, to be honest. This kind of leaflet did influence Tagore's public speech, but it cannot be only explained from the standpoint of the power of the left, because I read a book which was written by Krishna Dutta and Andrew Robinson. They said these people are determined to. They said he was wrong. Here he referred to Rabindranath Tagore. He was wrong as a triumph of communists in China and a comparatively failure of communism in India. Actually, it is none of business of a communist or communism. It is just like some people will love Tagore, but some people dislike him. Just like even in modern society, some Bengalis like him, but some people dislike him. This kind of argument only make their argument from the point of left power is a sort of, for me, it's a very shallow. So, no matter what kind of experience Tagore had got in China, positive or negative, no matter he's highly praised or he experienced some anti-feelings, it is very sure that Tagore's Chinese trip was very fruitful, and he also left a great legacy to Chinese and South Asian posterity to enhance cultural communication. This trip was impressive to Tagore, as he even wrote to remember this trip during in his very late writing. He wrote a little poem. I only got the English translation here. He wrote, "Once I went to the land of China, those whom I had not met put a mark of friendship on my forehead, calling me their own. The garb of a stranger slips from me unknowing. The inner man appeared, who is eternal, revealing a joyous relationship unforeseen. A Chinese name I took, dressed in Chinese clothes. This I knew in my mind. Wherever I find my friend, there I am born anew. Life's wonder he brings." Tagore here mentioned he got a Chinese name and dressed in Chinese clothes to remember his vivid memory. Actually, he got the Chinese name from the very traditional Chinese scholar named Liang Qichao. His Chinese name is Zhu Zhendan, which literally in English means thundering dawn of India.
Could you spell that, please?
You mean the Chinese? You mean in Chinese character or Roman?
Roman, please.
Yeah, of course. ZHU, that is the family name. Then the given name is ZHEN. DAN.
And what does it mean again in English, please?
Thundering Dawn of India.
Thundering Dawn, D-O-N.
No, D-A-W-N. Okay, Dawn of India. So it is a special name to express the feeling of being an ambassador, cultural communication ambassador to this land.
And awakening people up.
Yes, because he used to write to support Chinese to fight for the invasion from Japan during World War II. So that's why his influence is quite huge in modern society. Sorry, I forgot to turn a slash. And that is after his travel to China, his legacy is still continuous. In 1942, the former Chinese president, it was still Republic of China at that time. Mr. Chiang Kai-shek, he and his wife visited Shantiniketan in 1942, especially to the Jina Pobun, the Chinese Studies Center, to see what kind of situation it was during their Indian trip. That is a picture you would say the gentleman, the lady with a flower ring on their neck will be the president and his wife. Then in 1957, our former prime minister, of course, it is People's Republic of China now. So Mr. Zhou Enlai visited Shantiniketan in 1957 for the promotion of understanding between India and China. Of course, it was in West Bengal. This kind of a trip also proved that Tagore was and is not anti by the communist government. It is still quite alive even to today. We could see some pictures from that way. That is Tagore's statue in Shanghai. It is in 2001 made by it is funded by the government to make a statue in the Shanghai city center, and also the Indian president was there to reveal the statue, just like the one in Golden Square in London. Then the right picture will be the normal Chinese people who worship Tagore and send him flowers, send the statue flowers to remember his trip to China. Then some other thing is Bengali Language and Culture expert in China working on the translation of complete works of Tagore from Bengali to Chinese. The left one, the lady, is my professor. She's 70 years old this year, and she has done Bengali language and literature for 50 years. And this group of experts, they're only doing approaching Tagore from Bengali language perspective. And it is a piece of very great news. The complete works of Tagore will come in near future. I don't know, maybe in 3 years, because it is such a huge work. We have been doing it for almost 10 years. People want to do it in a very accurate and decent way. Want to translate from original Bengali, but not in English.
Everything of Tagore.
Yes, everything.
The short story collection.
Everything. We have been doing it for such a long time, and it is funded by the Chinese government. So,
will this include his science writings?
Sorry?
Will this include other writings like his science writings?
I think so, because they are trying to collect something new. They are always trying to add something new inside, because it is quite a large amount of work. So also including his letters, everything, the letters, plays, novels, and everything you can think.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I hope so, because now there is, in China there are only 40 to 50 people who can really understand Bengali. So in this group, the leading members are only 17 Bengali experts. So that is the thing we're doing to demonstrate a more comprehensive, more whole Tagore for people to get access to, not only Gitanjali, not only Koribaile, the home and world, this kind of representative stuff. That is the professional power, and then this part is the younger generation who will take their responsibilities to continue this career. They are students of Bengali language and literature. I'm sorry, I made a mistake here. It's literature, not culture. In the program of 150th anniversary of Tagore's birth in Beijing. And yes, that is, we started our Bengali language major from 1963. And now we have four generations of Bengali learners. That is the generation of 2006, and the newest one is 2011. So we always get new, fresh minds to join in the group, to know this culture, know literature in this country more. I'm very glad to share their new achievements, because every day they're doing something. Mainly get the ideas from Tagore, because it is a very important Bengali figure. Of course, we're also doing something else, like Qasi Nazrul Islam from Bangladesh, and also Indian writers like Jibun Nanondo Dash and Shorod Chandra. Yes. Sorry. We haven't done it yet. Yeah.
Shall we have to finish?
Yeah, of course. I will make a very quick conclusion. Tagore is quite relevant to modern society. As I have argued, he survived as a very comprehensive figure, as an educationist, an artist, and even maybe not a qualified environmentalist, but a nature lover. And the second is the young generation's responsibility to continue Tagore's work. As I have mentioned, the British national curriculum and also the O-level examination for young students to get access to this language and also his writings. The third will be Tagore's inspiration to cosmopolitanism and multiculturalism. I gave samples of his trip to China and also his Gitanjali's different versions to understand him. So as the time is limited, so I have to finish my talk as soon as possible. Thank you for listening to me. And,
we'll go quickly to some questions, and then you know, the play starting. The actors are really waiting for everybody to go and see this lovely play.
Yes.
Thank you for
short question, please. Yeah?
Thank you for a wonderful talk, fascinating.
Thank you.
And my warmest congratulations to your country for really recognising the importance of Tagore, because he really is such a vital figure in this world. Now, one particular point about Gitanjali, the English version of Gitanjali is not simply based on the Bengali version, but it's based on a whole series of verses, including, and forgive my pronunciation, please, Gitamalia, Kaya, Chana, etc. So we're not really talking, the same work. Now, my view is that Yeats was really quite pivotal in Tagore, being recognised internationally, because it was he who undertook the publication of the book. He edited, with mixed results, Tagore's translations, but without his forward forward, and because he was such a well-recognised poet in the Western world, without his incredibly strong endorsement, it's very doubtful that Tagore would have been recognised the way that he was. That catapulted him to the Nobel Prize, made his attention. So I think, with Yeats, I do agree with you that he didn't have sort of a full grasp of Tagore and the context, and I would even differ with some of his fine-tunings of Tagore's translations. Sometimes I feel Tagore's was better. But yes, but sometimes Yeats did improve it. But it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I do feel it's actually pivotal.
Yes. I would say that if without Yeats' introduction to Tagore's Gitanjali, it would be really hard for Tagore to gain such a huge international fame. But of course, in modern society, Tagore's a real Tagore or a real Tagore writing should be more, should be paid more attention. Not only Yeats' introduction, because as I have mentioned, in the sort of the eco-literary system should be built. So that's my point of view, and
We'll just take one more question. I
have one question. I think I've been actually looking for an opportunity to actually ask this question to an arena where Tagore will studied. We know translation is a tricky business. Now we know Rabindranath Tagore. Now I want to find out when Tagore became Tagore. Like how do we actually Englishicize someone's name as well? Like I have raised the same question with Plassy, like it's Polashi. Now Polashi became Plassy for some people to have the convenience to understand history, and also for some people to have the convenience to even change someone's name. So I would like to probably have anybody's comments on this.
I think its pronunciation is difficult sometimes.
Yes, it's just like for me, when I'm learning it, I got a lot of materials from English resource. And especially the Roman writing is quite different sometimes. Sometimes in that way, sometimes in that way. There's no standard one for me to get access to.
It is true though that you said the name is Tagore, and there is an English letter that actually can give you the exact same pronunciation.
Yes, I understand you.
K-U-R, so why?
T-H-A-K-U-R.
I
think English people probably find it very difficult to pronounce Indian words.
And they just heard local people, and as I understand that's not Thakore's family's real name. I believe it's Banerjee. Well, thank you. And it was like a title like Holy Lord, and that, as I understand it, the British would hear local people saying in a reverential way to members of the Thakore family, Thakore, as into like Baron, Holy Lord, and that the British would just, with their imperfect hearing, heard it as Tagore, and that's how it...
So it was a mistake.
It was their pronunciation.
So if that was a mistake,
I think,
why should it not be?
but I think we have to stop.
I agree with him. Actually, there is a mistake because a lot of people now here, also teaching profession, I have met with, they are using Thakur. I say we have a Thakur Tagore, but he didn't actually, didn't protest. If my name is like that, I should have to protest. Thakur didn't protest. That's simple. That's universally now the Tagore. But that should be Thakur.
I think this is outside the scope of this.
Because there you see Chu Chen Tan, that's Chinese name. We know it now, and his birthday was first celebrated in 1981 in China as a foreign, writer.
We're booking you next time for a seminar. I think we really have to stop now, right? Yeah, we have to go next door. Thank you for coming all the way from China, and it was really wonderful. Really learned so much. And we'll put this on YouTube so millions of people can see.
Yeah, I hope it will not be a sort of a shame.
No, it's really brilliant.
Because I'm doing it the lack of logic today, because it's quite, with the jet lag, so I'm not very clear-minded.
No, but it was really good,
I'm just, bring some Chinese voice to the international audience to make people know more about